Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to another full card breakdown. This time for Dana White Contender Series, the final week of Season 7, Week 10, and we are here to break it down. The entire card, man, it's kind of mixed feelings. You know, we love doing this show every single week. We always look forward to it, and we're done. The final one of this year. But we're going to end it with a bang. We do have 6 fights to break down instead of the usual 5. We do have ourselves 2 people joining me this week to give you guys the best information possible, and we are not going to be missing any stop at all. Quickly before the video begins, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian listeners. I know we got some chats there. I'll check it out there shortly. Canadian Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. Who cares? We're thankful, and I'm thankful for some fights tonight. So we're going to go over here. We're going to break down everything. As always, I'm joined by my main man, LiamPicksFights. Last week and every single odd week, we had been on his channel, and I'm grateful that we split these videos. We've been doing it, 3 years now, and hopefully we'll get a 4th one in after this, man. How are we doing, my man? How are we doing for this final episode of Season 7?
Absolutely, brother. And it's kind of been a roller coaster for me, right? If you remember back to that first season that we went together, that was when I kind of started going on a sun run, if you will, of bets. You know, I ended up hitting every week, 10 weeks in a row on the Contender Series when we first got started. Last year, it was a little bit rockier. This year, I feel like I'm back in the driver's seat. I feel like my reads have been a lot better on Contender Series than just generally speaking this year. And in terms of the Contender Series picks last week, 4 for 4 by the time we went official on those picks and predictions. So very exciting stuff, and just trying to close it out strong, my man. We got 6 fights this week. We got some returning hitters. You know, I always just put in the names into my Google Drive and see what comes up. Connor Matthews making his return to the Contender Series. He's not the only one. A couple guys that were scheduled before now getting that opportunity again. So really exciting stuff, my man. I'm excited to break it down with you too.
For sure, man. And it's been a pleasure as always. Make sure to check out all Liam stuff at Liam's Picks Fights. I would say go check him out next Monday, but this is the final one for now. Maybe we will do a recap or something. We'll talk about it. It's okay. We'll get to it. But what we did do halfway through this season is we introduced a 3rd panel member, try to give you guys a different view, and someone who definitely goes out there and attacks those early markets, attacks it from a different angle as well. And I personally have loved having him on the show. We do have Pierce BigBird as well joining us. How are we doing, my man?
Doing great, man. You know, I just want to shout out the OGs in the chat. We got my boy JB, my boy Mushroom, and then can't forget my boy Lou. For those of y'all that don't subscribe to Lou's channel, he actually has an interview with one of the dudes on this card, so I figured I'd give that a shout out. At the MMA Engine on YouTube, they interviewed Cortavius Romious, who we're going to get into later tonight. But, you know, without those guys, we wouldn't have a show. And looking forward to the last card, man. I know some people are saying they're glad it's over. I'm going to miss it, man. There's no energy like the Contender Series. And that energy is even better when we're making money as well. So looking forward to get into it. 6 fights, and I got 6 bets.
There we go, man. I'm looking forward to hearing about those for sure. I'm going to shout out the chat as well. You stole my job there, but appreciate everybody for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And I know we had the chat about it. You know, American, Canadian Thanksgiving. Who cares? We're thankful. I get to celebrate it twice, right? That's the great part about it. Shout out to you, Mushroom. Shout out to you, Lou, as well for checking in. Yes, do go check out that interview. Pretty cool stuff. Funny guy. And I definitely look forward to listening to Are You Not Entertained tomorrow night as well. Shout out to Lou hanging out there. Mushroom, the Jewish Better as well is in there. Classics hanging out. Frank Newman, easy picks and bets. Appreciate everybody for joining us so far. Again, we got a decent amount of you guys in the chat. So like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Pepe's shitting you out there for ruining the lines, of course. Of course. We'll get to that as well. And then AO Adrian as well hanging out. Let's do this, man. All right. I love talking to you guys in chat. Make sure to ask any questions you want. We'll be sure to hit them. Let's talk fights, man. We have 6 to cover, and that is in part due to this very first fight of the night that actually we should get some odds for right here. Liam, if you haven't seen them yet, close your eyes. I know. You don't see the lines at all. But we do have ourselves a reschedule bout, one for last week, and that is involving either Davy Costa or Davy Bittencourt against Lucas Rocha here in a very, very fun matchup. One that was scheduled for 125 last week. We are going up a weight class due to a weight miss last week on the Rocha side here. But without further ado, we do have the 14-3 David Bittencourt versus the 16-1 Lucas Rocha. This fight was really expected to happen at 125. Lucas Rocha, the guy missed weight by 5 pounds last week, and they are moving up to 135. The funniest part about that is Rocha's 5'2". Rocha's not someone I really went out there and expected to miss weight at a high clip here. He's not someone who I necessarily had as the guy who's going to struggle to make weight here. But nonetheless, he is someone who got this bout rescheduled. And I'm kind of happy they did, because this does seem one that does have some fireworks involved on it. But it would be rude of me to break it down first. Let's pass it over to my guests here and the greatest co-host of all co-hosts in Liam Picks Fights. Tell me about this batch here.
This is an interesting one. On the one hand, Davi Bittencourt, he didn't miss weight last week, so a lot of people are going to be way more interested in being on that side. I think that's obvious. But when you look at the Rocha side, aside from getting flatlined in a fight that he was winning, and even the guy that knocked him out was surprised that it happened, but other than that, he's been a pretty tough guy. He's been a tough out for a lot of people. He's had a lot of fights. And I always talk about what's one angle I look for long-term, a younger guy with more experience. He's had a ton of fights. He's still a very young guy. So I think he's going to present some interesting challenges here. Do I worry a little bit about his chin? I do, because I think Davi Bittencourt, the thing that stood out to me about him, he gets taken down too easily for me. But he does have an interesting way of floating his way back to top position, being an awkward scrambler from his back. But how often is that going to work at a higher level? I do kind of have some questions about that. He looks very physically strong. You look at his Instagram, it looks like he's in hella good shape for this contest. But at 135 pounds, I'm not sure who's really got the advantage there. I would think that for anybody, it's Rocha just not having to cut that amount of weight again. Doing 2 radical weight cuts back to back, especially if you fail one, not good for your health. So I think it makes more sense that they did this at 135 pounds. And I think that this is going to be a competitive fight. So I don't know where this is lined. I have to assume Rocha is going to be the dog here. And it seems like it's varied across the board here. You can get a plus 100 even money on Bovada, it looks like, on Costa, but on Rocha, it looks like plus 112 is the best available number. Yeah, I'd probably be leaning towards the Rocha side at plus money, but don't feel super bullish on this fight. I do think it's going to end inside the distance, though. Rocha just seems like a guy who's going to be kill or be killed. In that fight, it looked like he was on the precipice of finishing. Then the guy went for a leg lock entry, got to his feet, 2 big knees, knockout blow. So just seems like a guy who could be kind of on that precipice of danger if the fight's on the feet too long.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I was going to jump here and get my own breakdown. We got a very generous donation here from the Jewish Better asking for Pierce's. You know what? I want to hear Pierce's as well. So let's pass it over to my second co-host here. Pierce, give the breakdown, and shout out to you, the Jewish Better, for the dono there. Be sure to check him out as well. I know it goes live on Instagram. I get those notifications. So appreciate the dono there. And Pierce, what you got on this one?
Shout out my boy JB. He gave Bobby Green that magic touch, and I don't think Bobby Green's lost since then. So shout out to that man, JB. But it's weird because last week I actually had a bet on Costa or Bittencourt when he was like plus 155 when they opened him last week. And they opened the lines again later in the week, like Thursday or Friday. I actually switched up my lean, man. I bet Rocha at plus 120, and it's coming back towards that price. And honestly, you look at Bet MMA tips. I'm not going to say, I don't like to use the word mush, but let's just say my name's the only one under Rocha. And what happens when we got a line that's a pick'em and we got everybody on one side? Is it a trap? I don't know. But I feel like people are clouding their judgment, man, because they see last week, they see, oh, Rocha missed weight. He's probably not ready to fight. He's sick. He's injured. But not 100% sure if it's true, but I heard he had travel issues. And that could be a lot of the reason why he missed weight, because he's fought at 115 before. So I wouldn't expect him to struggle to make weight. But when I run the tape, it's like I'm going to act like the weight miss didn't happen because I'm breaking down what I see and not what people are speculating. So on the tape, I said last week that you have to make Rocha the favorite, but just a slight favorite because I did bet Costa just because he has the grappling upside. And then I kind of just looked over my notes. I didn't retape it because it's like there's so many fights going on. But reading my notes, it was like Bittencourt's very one-dimensional in my opinion. He goes for takedowns, but it's like his wrestling's not even the best. And like Liam mentioned, he gets taken down himself. So it's like, maybe he hits takedowns here, but I saw Rocha in his LFA fight. He did get his back taken, but he was doing a good job creating scrambles in that fight. And I just think Rocha in this matchup, he's just more dangerous. He's got more tools to win this matchup. And when I look at the odds, it's like I'm getting a guy that's younger, got more paths to victory, in my opinion, versus Bittencourt. Yeah, he's a bit of a wild card. He does throw haymakers from his hips, and he has power. I guess he could knock out Rocha because we have seen Rocha hurt and chinned in the past. So potentially we could see a KO on the Costa side, but it's like if this is a striking fight and Costa's not getting takedowns, it's hard not to side with Rocha, man. You just look at the kid. He's actually like very dynamic on the feet. I love his head kicks. He's very fast, and I think he's really quick. He kind of reminds me of the Jonato Silva guy that we had a couple weeks ago that got knocked out, but a better version, obviously. We got two former strawweights, but they're fast and they carry that speed. And it's like if Costa's going to stay at range with Rocha, I'm going to take the guy that's cleaner on the feet. Or maybe Costa can get takedowns. I just don't rate his wrestling at all. So I'm going to go with the guy that's a more complete fighter in my eyes, and I'm getting plus money on it. And seeing everybody on the Bittencourt or Costa side, it's giving me more confidence, man. I think Rocha's definitely the side, man. And the weight miss, driving people the other direction, but I'm not going to let that cloud my judgment. I think Rocha is the bet inside, and probably going to go by decision. I think the overs are pretty safe in this fight. You got two flyweights. I know Costa's a bit wild, but it's flyweight historically goes to decision. I'm sounding like Yanni the Greek, but I do think it goes to decision, and we'll take Rocha by decision. So not a passionate take, but I think he should be like minus 140, minus 150.
Hey, if you're speaking like Yanni, give me that smile, man. Show me those pearly whites. We know we love a good Yanni around here, huh? There we go. No, you know what? It is a very interesting one, and I'm happy to hear you go out there and be on that island because you know what? Sometimes people don't have the ability to. You've called some great dogs in the past, and you know what? Although there goes Liam. Maybe we'll see if we get him back here. But although you go out there and you give all the credence towards the people going out there and going against that weight cut, to me, I probably put more stock into it than you do. Being someone who just doesn't like the way that someone's able to go out there and come back a week later without even making that cut, that definitely does play a bit into the line. But I think you're right. I think there is going to be a bit of a overcorrection there in that regard. But when it comes down to the overall skill sets, 1 second, let's get Liam back in there. Welcome back, my friend. When it comes back to the overall skill sets, really, we do have ourselves one guy, in my opinion, who I think has more ways of getting it done, that being the Bittencourt side. I do think he's going to be the guy who's got the ability to mix it up on the ground as well. I do think he's going to be the ability to go out there and land powerful shots in his own right. And I think when it comes down to the downfall of both these fighters, they both have their flaws. Neither of these guys are necessarily too trustworthy to go out there and lay much chalk on, which is why it's kind of good for it to be at a closer line here, because I think both these guys can be hit. I think that on one side of things, you do have Rocha, who can be taken down. Salem got his back taken in previous bouts as well. And there are areas for him to go out there and improve. But if you look at an overall striking skill set and a 15-minute striking affair, the guy who I think is going to be the more technical fighter and more dangerous on the feet is probably going to be the Rocha side of things. And I think that if we come towards the fact that both these guys have chin deficiencies, in my opinion, both these guys have really a downfall in that durability compartment. Do I trust either of the ones to excel more than the line indicates at such an even line? And I don't really think so. And I think it comes down to a multitude of ways this fight can play out, leaving me to kind of want to take a step back. Really, a big fancy way of me saying this is really close. I think if I had to pick a winner on one side of things, I think the fighter who has more paths, being the ground game, being also the ability to land powerful shots in the feet, is Bittencourt. But overall, the more technical fighter of the two, the guy who I could see also building as the fight goes on and having the ability to land strikes from distance, could be Rocha. I can't trust Bittencourt to go out there and land takedowns at a high clip and keep him on the mat. So for that reason, I don't think there's enough of a bet to go out there and justify him being now the favorite. But he is the side I would pick if I had to. I know Pierce talked about the over, and from a flyweight perspective, 100%. But considering the durability concerns, considering how I think that it's going to be harder for Costa to go out there and out volume or up points way to a decision, I like his underline in this case, right? Him going out there potentially landing a KO shot because he doesn't throw with the most technicality, but he does throw with power, or him having the ability to maybe submit in one part here. I do think the under maybe would be my moral lean, but I am someone who does like violence more. There's no denying that. So to me, very, very interesting matchup, one where I don't have too much of a stance on either. I think gun to my head, I would pick Bittencourt. However, I think the line might be overcorrecting too much towards weight miss, despite me giving it credence as well. So interesting one there as well. Let's give a shout out to the chat right here. Bailey saying what up once again. Shout out to the Jewish better. Cole Stein hanging out there as well. Frank Newman's in here. Pepe saying isn't 5'2". Yeah, I did see that one where it was listed 5'5", but even looking at the face-offs here, there is a bit of a... He doesn't look like the biggest guy at all. He does have a bit of muscle mass, but maybe 5'2" is a bit wrong. Just what I got here in my notes. Yes, Pierce definitely on an MMA tips island as well. We'll see if my laptop's able to comprehend all these things here. Mushroom as well. We'll make sure to give Mushroom some parlays at the end to give him some credence here. So let's keep her moving here. Next fight up, we do have ourselves a fight. Oh, we're slow with the laptop today. All right, 155. Isakov 10-2, 7-1. Markel Mederos. Another matchup where we do have ourselves a bit of a line correction as well. One where I'm excited to see if Mr. Bet MMA Tips Pierce himself has any action on this one. What are your thoughts on this one, Pierce?
I'll be sniping these openers. That's all I'm gonna say. I got probably gonna let it ride, man. They doesn't say it on fight odds, but they opened Mederos plus 475. 475. I thought that was fucking ridiculous. So I got like a shit ton down at big dog odds. But even now at plus 160, I honestly think that he's the value side. I was kind of riding my own dick there, but I just think in this matchup, we got Chocolate Daddy, Markel Mederos. Some call him Jamal Murray Jr. I call him Chocolate Daddy. But Markel Mederos, I love this kid, man. I've been following him for a while in Fury FC. And he is very green in his own right, but it's like he really stood out to me because I could see like the talent was there. It's just all about him putting it together. And when I look at this matchup, we have, I think he's 27, 26 years old, Markel Mederos. And I feel like he's the fighter that's improving fight by fight. And you look at Isakov, he's 33 years old and I feel like I've been saying this in a lot of circles. I think he's been a finished product for like the past 4 years. It's like I said, if you've seen one Isakov fight, you've seen them all. It's because he does the same shit every fight. And I respect it, though, because he's got a very consistent style. He looks to go for takedowns, double leg, single leg, get you up against the cage, and really just, he's kind of a wet blanket, but I guess at the end of the day, that gets you wins. It's just in the Contender Series format. His style of like just wrestling, chilling out in guard, and really just getting off on top time. I don't know exactly why the UFC is bringing him here at 33 years old. And I'll mention this is the second time he's cut the 155. He fought in Brave CF. He's taken some fights at like, I think 165 and 170. And the last time he cut the lightweight, he got knocked the fuck out by Levon Chokoli. So I'm hoping it happens again. He gets knocked out at lightweight. But I guess just the reason I think Mederos is the side is just on the feet. It's Isakov. He's a heavy bag. I mean, he walks forward, he pressures, but he keeps a high guard. And I think the body's open. And I think a big weapon for Mederos here is going to be his kicks. Where I know Mederos, he kind of, when he was on the amateur scene in early pro career, he would look to grapple. Probably because that was something he was more comfortable to, and it was kind of like a safe way in a lot of his fights. Because I did notice early in his career with Mederos, he didn't necessarily like to get hit. I saw him get dropped a couple times, but he would just clinch up, get the rear body lock, and kind of just waste time on his opponents in the clinch and on the rear body lock. But I've seen a progression in him, man. It was I forget the dude's first name, but the Reader fight. That's probably the best Markel Mederos we have ever seen, and I know he's had some spotty wins, close decisions, like maybe like a year or two ago in Fury, but I'm seeing a guy that's really finding his form. And Mederos, I feel like he's a young kid who's making improvements every fight, and I really like his striking, man. And if he can stuff takedowns, I think he can sprawl on Isakov. He might get taken down early. Isakov is not a horrible grappler. There's a reason why he has this good record. It's that he has decent enough wrestling, but it's like if it gets extended, I think Isakov might get tired. I mean, we need to address that he's coming down the lightweight, so this is like the second time he's cut in his career, so who knows if he has the cardio to go a hard 3 rounds, because I don't really see much finish and upside from the Isakov side, and he's minus 200, and I just don't feel like he's the type of guy you want to bet minus 200 on, where his decision equity is, I mean, that's the majority of his win equity is the decision, and I just don't know if he can separate himself enough to cover that price tag, and it could just be one of those like damage versus control decisions where Markel Mederos just does enough, and he just catches the attention of the judges and they give him close rounds. But I'll say one more thing on the Isakov side. I know his loss to Muhammad Grabinski. I know Grabinski really well. That dude's a fucking fish off his back. So losing the Grabinski in the way he did, he even got fucking taken down by this Grabinski kid. I just don't rate that at all, man. That is a massive red flag for any of my Octagon fans getting taken down by Muhammad Grabinski. But I think, honestly, it should be closer to a pick'em or plus 110, plus 100 Mederos. You got to favor Isakov just because he has more process. He has the path to victory. But Mederos is young, and I'm willing to gamble on the kid that is showing a lot more improvements and seems to have more upside in Markel Mederos. So we're going with Chocolate Daddy, Markel Mederos, to get it done. I like the overs, too. Very generous prices on the overs. I don't rate Isakov's finishing ability, and I think Markel, I don't think he's going to find a finish, but he could. Maybe because the 155, he's vulnerable to getting chin like he did against Chokoli, but I'm going to go Mederos by decision, man. I really like this kid, and I think he's a bright prospect.
Well, that's the most love I've seen on the Mederos side this week, honestly. I won't lie there. You know what? You go out there and you do watch Isakov, and he is someone who does excite you in those transitions, right? He is very explosive. I think he does have a very good wrestling and grappling game. And I think he has the ability to go out there and be the more powerful guy in that side of things. And I kind of think that's why the line is where it is, climbing up that regard. But I do like the points you bring up, right? He is going to be the older fighter. He is one-dimensional. You go out there and you watch the way he's reacting to these shots is he's being dropped. His chin's not perfect. And although I am someone who likes to go out there and back grapplers, especially the DraftKings player, usually when you do so, you like them to be able to face adversity. You like them to be able to keep on going forward and have a ability to fight against that the opposition coming its way. But I think in this matchup here, he's going to have a lot coming forward. When it comes to the way that Dana White's Contender Series was originally built, right? You have to go out there and impress Dana. And that's something that's necessary that I think maybe Mederos maybe has the style to do more. Overall, this is one where it's going to be my typical one where I do like my grappler. I think gun to my head, I would have to pick Isakov because he does have such a, let's say, impressive game when you go out there and watch him regionally, being with those takedowns, strong clinch game, and ability to go out there, ride that top positions as well, being so dominant on the mat. But I think when it comes down to where the value lies, especially at the way that Pierce got it early on, but is going to be Mederos. I think we do have someone who has maybe a better line behind him here to go out and support him. And I think as this line climbs forward, it's only favoring him side more because he is going to be the better striker. He is going to be someone who's going to have the ability to go out there and pose threats towards Isakov, who doesn't really react to damage that well on the feet. And I do think he's going to be winning the technical minutes over the course of the decision here. That being said, I might have to wait for the line to keep climbing because I'm seeing nothing but love from Isakov. Aside from Pierce, it has seemed to be the line climbing toward Isakov being the better grappler of the two. But I think it's a lot closer than the line entails. And I think that if it wasn't for, let's say I don't want to keep saying explosive ground game, but if it wasn't for that one singular path that Isakov had towards success here, we might see some resistance or buyback on the Mederos side here. So I'm leaning toward Mederos. I think gun to my head pick, we'd give Isakov, but the way we're seeing this line move, I don't mind the younger fighter, the taller fighter, and the better striker, in my opinion. Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, when I looked at this matchup, boys, I did not love what I saw from Mederos, honestly. Just in terms of what I liked about his game, let me start with what I liked, right? It's like a compliment sandwich, right? So in terms of what I like his low kicks. He's got good low kicks. He's powerful with those. He's authoritative. He comes out and throws them with intent from the beginning, forces guys to switch stances. I think when he does that, he could take over a fight. But for me, I just feel like he's pretty vulnerable to being taken down. And I don't really like what I've seen from his ground game in the past. And so when you have one guy who's going to go out there and basically rely on one tool set against a guy who is potentially vulnerable to that archetypal fighter, that for me is where Isakov is being favored here. Because you look at the other on paper intangibles, he's the older fighter, right? So you'd maybe think, why would this guy be favored? He's not really bigger than the guy. So what is it? It's the style dynamic. It's the fact that people think he's going to get on top, which neutralizes leg kicks and the ability to work from the feet. I do think that Mederos has some power as well. He can box. It's not like he's just limited to the leg kicks, but I just feel like Mederos, from what I saw, he's not immune to being chinned either. He's a little bit reckless with his aggression. When you're throwing a lot of low kicks, that opens you up to being taken down and also opens you up to being caught while you're on one foot, which leads to knockouts and knockdowns. So I just feel like Isakov is going to be aggressive early. I feel like he's the way more savvy and experienced guy. You've got one guy who's pretty green against one guy who's had a ton of fights, pro and amateur. So I just feel like the experience edge here is actually a benefit. If he was 35, I'd be like, yeah, they're bringing him in just as fodder. And maybe he is just cannon fodder, but that's not really how I see it. I feel like Isakov, he's kind of a guy that represents that European market. He's got an interesting game, and it's not like he's just a stall-out top player. I do think he tries to implement his submissions. I do think he works in his ground and pound as much as possible. So I think he's going to bring an aggressive approach to this fight, especially, and I think he's going to feel like he's the way more savvy guy on the mat. So I think he's going to take it there, and I actually think he's going to finish Mederos. So give me Isakov via sub.
Never trust a guy that's representing Luxembourg in MMA. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, Luxembourg's got that cash, baby. Mederos might get a check in the mail, bro. Just watch out.
They got
disposable income, bro.
That's the only reason he's in the Contender Series is his family paid off Dana. And they're like, do us a favor. It's the same thing Taha did, man.
Dana don't need money. He needs stars, homie.
And I don't think this 33-year-old wet blanket's going to be one of them, but we'll see. I'm riding with Jamal Murray Jr., man. He's going to step up for Denver, man. You'll see.
This line has been climbing, man. That's for sure. I guess the opener was something that Pierce did touch on here, but as much as I think I gun to my head, I did pick Isakov, man. I don't see that same domination path to victory here. I think if it's going to be Isakov winning, it's going to be really based off of a close ground game, and we just saw what happened to Murata this weekend when her ground game wasn't necessarily go out there and be that dominant either. So
against the BJJ black belt, who I told people was going to win, by the way.
I'll counter on one thing. If you like Isakov, I see the screen right now. Isakov by decision, that's plus 325. I think that's probably his main path to victory. It's a pretty damn good price, so not bad value if you like Isakov at the decision odds.
You prefer the sub, eh, Liam?
I think he's going to itsy bitsy spider right behind that neck.
That's all right, man. Well, we got an opposition here. I don't mind going head to head on it. I personally don't really know how much I can trust the process of Isakov down the stretch. And I think although he's able to have some wrestling success early, it's only going to make Mederos go out there and want to, let's say, look for that finish more if he's able to survive early. So I'm more so an under guy. We kind of talked about this. I'm an under guy. We know this. Come on. So maybe I want to go out there and trust for that process either. But another interesting matchup. But let's keep her moving, guys. Before we do so, make sure to hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. We do have ourselves another decently sized favorite here, and definitely one that we're going to have some talking to do on this one, because this fight has fun written all over it, but maybe more bribing of being on the show. But we do have the 6-0 Torres Finney versus the 6-0 Yuri Panferov. And let's get the elephant out of the room here. First of all, topology picture on Panferov. Gorgeous, right? Polar bear. Sick. Nickname got there as well. Cool. But I'm not really sure if he's necessarily the one who's proven himself the most to get to this point in his career, to say the least, right? A really questionable level of competition. Never fought anyone with a winning record at all. And he's a guy who, although he's fighting this level of competition, he's getting them all out there early. He's having success, and he's dominating his fights despite a low level of competition. He's doing what he's got to do, but he's definitely had an easier road to get this spot here. Whereas Torres Finney, not facing the best level of competition either, but he's at least going out there and showing he can go to decision. He's going out there and showing a multidisciplinary approach to his game as well. And we have an ability for him to be the younger fighter and also have the ability to go out there and be the more proven of the two, despite the small disparity in that regard as well. There's a few things to point out as well here, is the fact that Torres Finney, 5'7", small dude, but extremely muscular, very big dude, built like a fire hydrant. You kind of like to see that. And he kind of really brings that. His style is very explosive as well. He has decent ability to go out there to the ground. He likes to go out there and get from top position, land ground and pound as well. And on the feet, questionable striking, but does throw with fighting and intention. I think he is someone who is built on that stocky power, and that his frame really builds off what his style brings to the cage as well. Panferov, although not facing any level of competition, getting those finishes, shows off a pretty slick ground game, has the ability to go out there and have success on the mat as well. And he seems like someone who striking is really limited in this spot, and one where he must have some improvement to do. Let's put it that way. Truth be told, you do the tape, you go out there, you look at the immeasurables, and you see that Finney's someone who, yes, has paths to get it done, but I expected Panferov to be maybe a slight favorite here. Maybe go out there, have the ability to use that padded record to his advantage, and maybe we get a better line on Finney here. And I do think this line is kind of creeping up to be a little wide here. Finney is someone who I think may have a path to victory here. He's the more proven guy, and I understand why people are picking him to win, but he himself is not the most dominant striker. He himself is going to be one who's going to go towards the takedowns and maybe put himself in some precarious situation. Although we've never really seen Panferov face anybody good, same thing happened a couple of weeks ago as well, when we're able to go out there, and although they don't have any tape to back themselves up, they could be decent when facing resistance. They could be horrible. We don't have any really of a sample size to go out there and have success gauging that. So to me, I completely understand why Finney's gaining love, but I don't think it should be to this much of extent. I might even lean towards maybe a sub prop on Panferov, or maybe ability for him to go out there and show an improved layer to his game, because both these guys are young. He does have an incredible height and reach advantage here, and it is a very interesting matchup, to say the least. Interesting to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. Liam, will go to you first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is a fun one. And I'm actually going to lean again towards the grappler in this one. And I know that both of these guys, look to grapple in their fights, but I think that Torres Finney is a wrestler. And I think that Yuri is a grappler. And I just think that I've seen a couple things from Torres Finney that makes me think he's a little bit susceptible to being submitted. he hasn't been made to pay yet in his fights, and he's very physical. That's why. But he makes some weird choices, in my opinion. I wrestle too, right? So I get to have an opinion, I feel like. And, I try and think about wrestling for grappling. There's certain things you can't do when you grapple that you could do in a normal wrestling match. And this guy's doing things like lifting inside of somebody's leg and trying to pick them up backwards and slam them and do some crazy stuff. And I just felt like he was putting his neck in some vulnerable positions, and he was getting himself a little out of sorts at times. And the guys weren't able to make him pay. I think of the guy who has a good record, but he's like 37 and he just had nothing to offer him physically. He had a couple near chokes locked in. He just literally didn't have the physicality to do anything to create an explosive movement to create the choke. But there's been a few times he's gotten reversed. Like he was on somebody's back late in a fight and got reversed and ate a bunch of big punches late. Just things that aren't great optically. And you'd think, he's not fighting the world's best fighters either. I mean, let's be frank about that. And the fight that really gave me pause about Torres Finney was the Caleb Crump fight, because Caleb Crump is 5-3-1 and he does not look very physical at all, but his knowledge of basic jiu-jitsu kept him alive in that fight, kept him competitive for the first 2 rounds, especially. And by the 3rd round, he just had nothing left. He was kind of a spent force there, started to bleed. He was getting beat up. But when I looked at it, I just feel like I'm seeing a guy in Yuri who is pretty unknown, but has some upside. He's got knockouts on his amateur record. And then you're looking at his fights where I feel like he's clearly a much better grappler than the average light heavyweight. And so I feel like if he gets on top in this fight, he could make it look easy. We've seen really good wrestlers like Jimmy Lawson, who's a purple belt under Tom DeBlas, get absolutely squashed and embarrassed by Carl Williams. It's like, I just don't trust always the grappling dynamics in these weight classes at heavyweight and light heavyweight. So for me, I liked what I saw offensively in the submission grappling from Yuri. So give me the underdog.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with what I was saying is like, yeah, you understand that the guy has nothing really to go out there and back his low-level competition, but what he also does have is, that could be good, right? He's gone out there and he's fought everyone in front of him and he's disposed of them properly, right? It's not like he's going out there and he's losing decisions to these guys. He's going out there against these low-level competition. He's crushing the cans, right? Again, a big risk when you're going out there and trusting someone who's fought this low-level competition, but it's not like Finney's facing some world beaters either. Like I mentioned at the start of mine, although I understand the love coming on the Finney side, as a line creeps up, you have a guy who's here Panferov at 26 who does show a decent ability on the ground as well, who is going to have the height and reach advantage. It's getting tempting for me, and Liam's only making it worse. Now, before I pass this to Pierce, I did peep the Bet MMA tips, so we'll have to see what happens on this one. But give your breakdown on your original thought on it and how you would play it with the line now as well.
Yeah.
You speak on my name, you die by my name. Just understand this. I am the champion. I am the Punisher. I am Torres Finney. And there's only one thing that's going to happen on July 2nd. And what you going to say is what I'm saying now. And still, but if you get some no, what the champ is picking.
My man Torres Finney, man. That man's an angel on the mic, man. Torres Finney all day, man. Can you smell what the champ is cooking? And what the champ is cooking is speed, athleticism, and superior wrestling, man. I don't want to overthink this spot. And I understand why people are like, okay, Torres Finney minus 240. I want to fade him. But at the end of the day, man, I'm looking at Yuri. I think he's a fraud, if I'm being real. His best win is a 43-year-old, 8-13 journeyman, man. I mean, he is coming down the middleweight, which honestly I think is going to be bad for him because he's slow. He was slow at light heavyweight, and it's like I don't expect the speed to be any faster. He is getting in shape right now, so I'll give him that. But at the end of the day, I think he's guillotine or bust, man. There's just nothing in Yuri's game where I'm like a massive fan of. I don't even think his wrestling's good. Where you look at Finney, good wrestler, man. This kid's a fucking athlete. He's like William Knight Jr., but he's definitely a lot better than William Knight. Don't get it twisted. Dude's built like a brick shithouse. I don't understand how Torres Finney has the cardio to go 15 minutes. I don't know if he's on some horse tranquilizers or something, man, but that dude's cardio is out of this planet considering his build. And when I look at Torres Finney, man, I understand that maybe from a technical standpoint on the ground, his jiu-jitsu might not be the best, but this dude is a fucking dog. I actually spent like a couple hours. I was watching his whole career, amateur to pro, because there's just something about this guy that I really was entertained and like he really caught my attention. And it's like I don't think he's has like top 15, top 20 upside in the UFC, but I just think there's something about him where it's like he believes in himself, and it's just you can tell the way he fights. It's like domination. I mean, I think I've seen him on bottom maybe like once or twice in the amateurs, but even then he got on a leg and he shrimped out. And I didn't see him settle on bottom where we got Yuri. I saw him get dropped in his last fight. Not saying that Torres Finney's an elite striker, but it's like I've seen this dude sleep guys cold at 205, not middleweight. This dude used to fight at 205. He would fight anybody and everybody, and they're not the best guys, but I don't know, man. I look at a guy that I know is a lot faster. I've seen him go 15 minutes. I don't know if Yuri can go 5 minutes. We've only seen him finish fights in the first round, and he's just, the way I watch him fight, he does not come off as a guy where it's like I think he can go a hard 15 minutes. And it's like, yeah, he's got like decent submission attacks, but it's like I'm seeing him go for like rear naked chokes from the side, man. He's not even getting his hooks in. He's not doing it from like a technical standpoint where I'm like, okay, this guy's a BJJ ace. I mean, maybe he gets a guillotine on Finney.
Weili Zhang submitted Carla Esparza.
Okay, Weili Zhang's also got the strength of a man. That's a young man right there.
It's how you submit a wrestler. You catch their arms when they're trying to wrestle, and then you grab a hold of their neck and they panic. But it's just in a...
You know, women's MMA does not compare to the champ, Torres Finney. But, I mean, I said it when I first started this breakdown. Speed, athleticism, superior wrestling. I think that's really all Torres needs here. As long as he can stay safe from like a guillotine or maybe some cheeky Kimura sweep, I feel like it's his fight to lose, man. I honestly wouldn't go, I'm going to be real, I wouldn't go crazy at minus 240. That's what I wrote in my notes. I wrote he should be like minus 225, minus 250. So I got the early number on him. They opened him, Liam, at plus 240, which I thought was pretty crazy. I think you have to make Finney the favorite here, but maybe the books know something. Maybe there's a reason why they're opening Yuri minus 300, but I don't know, man. I think it's Finney. He's going to power bomb him from the start. It's going to be like a WWE match, man. He's going to Batista bomb him in through the canvas, man. Torres Finney all day. Let's go.
Yeah, and you know what? He's great in the mic. Perfect. He's gone out there and he's gone 15 minutes. Great. Panferov hasn't done that. You got to give him credit for that. But at the end of the day, he's not like he's doing that against anyone putting up too much resistance, right? It's not like he's going out there and grappling anybody who can challenge him on the mat. I haven't really seen him go out there and face too much adversity in the first place to make him worthy of being a minus 240 favorite. And really, that's my really side of things. Panferov, yes, he could be a complete fraud. I could look like an absolute idiot. I'm used to looking like an idiot. Come on. But at the end of the day, we haven't seen anything from either guy to make them worthy of minus 240, hence why it's good for you to get on that plus money number for Finney as well. And I think that we do have two fighters who have a lot left to prove. Yeah, Finney's going to have that explosive takedown upside, but you're playing into Panferov's game. And on the feet, yes, Finney probably is a better striker in terms of power, but when you're 5 inches shorter here as well, you're leaving opportunities as well. Who knows? There's a lot of question marks, and I think that if I have to pick a side here at this price tag, probably going to be Panferov, but
he's in prime Batista bomb position, Torres Finney. It's going to be easier to get on them hips.
I got one last question for my guy Pierce, though, on this one, Gordo, if you don't mind, which is, didn't you just tell me they didn't bring in these guys who are going to lay and pray? They want the exciting guy. They want the How about this guy who's got all finishes? He finishes everybody. You're like, I don't know, dismiss this guy. Let's get Torres Finney to go out there and wrestle F somebody's hips for 15 minutes. No, sir. Let's get some exciting finishers. All right.
You know, Liam, I gotta find this dude's name. Mr. 43-year-old himself. Old enough to maybe be my father. Liam, I think you could beat Brian Imes on a good day, man. This guy's you put those guys in there with Torres Finney. See what the fucking champ's gonna do. I've seen Torres Finney sleep dudes on the feet. I haven't seen Yuri sleep nobody. He trying to Kimura these guys.
Watch them amateurs. Watch them amateurs, dog.
Damn. I don't believe it.
I will say, man.
Wolfgang Fiasconaro, which literally sounds like a name that somebody wrote down on a piece of paper after a fight that didn't happen.
What Russian is living in Connecticut, man? Well, what are they doing in Connecticut, man? This guy's a fraud. I can already smell it.
Glover Teixeira's got a little gym that looks like half a garage that you drive past and be like, what the heck? And then
Connecticut's got a little if he was Brazilian, different story. My man Rodolfo Bellato, he went to that gym, and look at him, man. I don't see it with Yuri, man. He's a fake Russian. I smell it. If he wins, luckily this is the last episode, so I can't take any shit. If I can't take any shit with Torres Finney gets guillotined, but let's go, baby. The champ is here and he's cooking. Hey, I forgot to add, trains with Trevor fucking Peak. So what do you expect? You think he's gonna tap? He trains with Trevor fucking Peak. He don't tap to nothing.
There's no being a tough guy about a choke. That's what I always say.
Last thing to mention is shout out 420 MMA Picks who sent this over, but see this the comparison from before. That was a year ago, and now the weigh-ins. He's a bit more shredded. Good doctor. Connecticut maybe he's got something in the water over there. Who knows? We'll have to see what's going on. Something's fishy about this one. And Pierce, you getting plus money is all you need to know on this one. Just saying, this point in time, I would be cautious parlaying Finney at minus 240. Let's end it there. All right. Perfect. All right. We're going to keep her moving. We got some fights to go. We're 40 minutes and we're passionate about these ones today, friends. We're going to keep her going though. We do have ourselves a returning fighter to the octagon, Connor Matthews here, who went out there against my boy Francis Fire Marshall. Oh, poor Francis. But we do the 6-1 Connor Matthews versus the 10-0 Jair Jair Farias. Someone help me out. Liam, what you got on me? Help me with the name. Farias. Yeah. What am I doing? Guys, biochemistry is rotting my brain, guys. Don't go to school. Kidding. Stay in school. Anyways, we do have ourselves a pretty fun matchup here. Connor Matthews went on last time. Perfect record. Never made it out of the first round. Wins over the some great level of competition. But he went out there and he put on a very, very fun fight, but one that was also just predicated on the fact that this guy is super tough, right? When you're going out there and you're in the judges talking about how tough you are, it's really just showcasing that, is that really what you got here? If you're being told the best attribute about yourself is that you're tough, it's really not going to look a good look because it means you're absorbing a lot of damage. You're not really going out there and impressing too much of your offensive skills. You're being hit a lot in the first place. So that was my big read when going back and watching that fight was this guy's super tough. There's no discrediting that, but he gets hit a ton. He's facing on this Farias guy. Man, I'm really struggling with my names today. Someone who is going to be fighting out of the Fighting Nerds, which is a very good camp we've talked about recently here as well. Someone who is, let's say, a camp we don't really want to step in front of it too much here. And he's also going to be the younger and taller fighter in his own right here. So what we do have is this 10-0 prospect, someone who I do think is fighting under a good gym, but who is going to be more of a striker by trade here. And I think in this matchup here, when we're talking about styles for these fighters to win, is I think Connor Matthews is a very good, well-rounded fighter offensively. I think he's a good ability to mix it up on the mat. I think he has some decent striking as well, but he gets hit so much that I'm worried for his longevity. I'm worried for his optics when it comes to winning these fights as well. And he's someone who I think is questionable to go out here and back at a high clip. Farias, I think, has a ton of holes in his game as well. Low level of competition. His ground game is very questionable as well. I think he can be hit as well, but he's shown durability. And to me, what we do have here is a pretty close matchup. Again, I think the match has been really close this week for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm not one to really want to step in front of the fighting nerds right now, especially with someone who can be hit as often as Connor Matthews. With that being said, guess what, guys? There's another crazy opener, and Pierce jumped on it. Tell us a bit about the opener and tell us about where you land the fight now.
I support the troops. Picking Connor Matthews, U.S. Air Force veteran, my man. This guy's going to fight for my fucking money. Farias, I know last week, guys, I was talking about them fighting nerd guys. I said I'm never going to not back a fighting nerd guy. But, I mean, I got to back the troops. We got Connor Matthews here, man. I know. He got jabbed up by the fire marshal. But, that's okay. Francis, he's hit or miss. I still don't know if that guy's good or not. But at the end of the day, when I look at Farias, it's like he's by far the worst fighting nerds guy of the season. We had 4 of them. I don't even feel like listing the names, but y'all know them. But I mean, he's fought there's 2 fights of tape. I'm sure, unless you guys found more, I couldn't. But there's 2 fights of tape. One from 2019, one from 2023. The kid, he seems like offensively he's a decent striker, but one of the fights, I think it was the 2019 one, the dude was getting his ass beat. I think he was getting taken down or something. And then his opponent, his opponent kicked him on the chin and he broke his toe, if I recall correctly. And his opponent just broke his toe and fell over. It was the funniest shit. But then, sorry, I'm probably screaming too much. I'm very passionate about
You're good.
Some of my fighters. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I just think it's a close fight where you can't really be confident on his side. And I did play the opener on Matthews, but at plus 150, I think maybe there's a little value on Matthews. But you look at the face-offs. I mean, I have a feeling we might see some Farias money come in because of the face-offs. That motherfucker was huge. It's a big boy right there. But, you know, he's making up for a lot of that size up top. Those legs. He's got scrawny-ass legs, and we've seen in his fights. He does not like to get kicked in the legs. I think the calf kicks for Matthews could be an effective weapon here. And I've seen him go for it a little bit. He went for it in the Marshall fight, but he kind of stopped doing it as the fight went on. I think he was just getting jabbed up, and he couldn't really get a game plan going. But I guess at the end of the day, we have someone in Matthews, man. I don't know what the mentality is like, but we've seen a lot of the guys that came back for the second time this season. We saw Steven Wynn and Rodolfo Bellato last week. They came back and they fought a lot better game plans. And I feel like Matthews, man, he's probably hungry. And if he comes in with a good game plan, I think he's chopping the legs. He's staying safe from range because, I mean, Farias, he's got a lot of reach on him. So maybe Matthews goes for the grappling. I haven't seen enough of his wrestling to say that I'm 100% certain he's gonna get takedowns here. But I mean, that's a potential path. I mean, he's kind of quick to get the back, so maybe Matthews can get a slick RNC. But I guess at the end of the day, I just think it's a close fight where we don't know enough about Farias to be laying the juice on him at -180. He could be good, but we just don't know. There's 2 fights of tape, and it's not even like he's extremely dominant on the tape. I just think it's I don't know. I wouldn't say fraud because I think the kid has some talent. It's just like defensively, I don't know. He could be a bad KO waiting to happen, but Matthews, he's durable. I know he's going to fight for my money. You see the Francis Marshall fight. That dude ain't quitting. That's that U.S. Air Force veteran toughness, man. He's taking some notes from Benoit Saint Denis. So, you know, maybe he mongoloids a comeback and Farias gets gassed. But I'm going to go with Matthews. Matthews by decision, I think, is actually a very interesting line at +550. I think a lot of his win conditions probably a decision here. And maybe the overs in general, fight goes to decision. Matthews is tough son of a bitch. I don't think he's going to get finished, but he is hittable. So maybe that's what we're talking about. I call him tough because he gets hit a lot. So maybe his chin's going to get cracked, but I don't know, man. Close fight. Can't be confident laying -180 on Farias. So we're going to go with my boy, Connor Matthews. I support the troops.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I am seeing the jokes here. I completely agree. I'm pretty tired. I won't lie. But, you know, let's get back woken up for this one, too. And if I had to go out there and reiterate my stance on this one, is the clear way to put this is, yes, Connor Matthews is someone who I think has a decent, credible skill set to go out there and utilize his toughness, utilize his decently good striking and his ability to mix up on the ground as well. But we haven't really seen him go out there and fight the best level of competition. I mean, when he go over Jay Ellis, cool. And when he finally fought that step up in competition, albeit someone in Francis Fire Marshall is pretty solid, he was able to get jabbed up. His striking defensiveness really wasn't there, and he didn't shoot a single takedown. So what is to say he's going to come in with a better game plan here? Yes, he has it on paper, and we've seen Farias be someone who can be taken down, can be controlled. But I think when we look at this matchup purely on paper and purely the way I see this playing out is, although we are getting plus money on Connor Matthews, I can't trust him to go out there and really win these striking exchanges at a high clip. So if he's not going to go out there and wrestle, if he's not going to go out there and have too much success in that department, is Farias going to be training under a good camp, have the ability to jab him up from the outside, utilize his range, utilize the toughness that Matthews is able to go out there and give him? Probably. And that's probably the way I see this fight playing out more often than not is if this is a 15-minute striking affair, Farias is going to have the range. I think he's going to be the better striker. You have the better defensive abilities as well to win the optics that way. Now, yes, Matthews has that path of victory on the ground, and that's something that you'd be willing to trust if you're going out there and backing him. But what Pierce mentioned is what I've been having in my notes right here is we just saw how tough this Matthews guy is. This over 1.5 a trap? Like, is Farias, who is favored, going to go out there and finish this guy? I don't necessarily think so. And if we're going to go out there and we're thinking that Farias is the favorite and he is someone who's going to utilize that jab, how often does that happen under 1.5 rounds? So I'm actually very tempted in this over 1.5 here. I think that although Matthews has the capability to go out there and utilize that grappling towards success, you have to expect that Farias fighting under the right camp here is going to be prepared for it. You have to expect that without Matthews ever showing proof of him grappling against comp-level competition, we can't trust that to happen at too high of an endeavor. Give me the over here. And the pick is going to be Farias, although I understand if you're trusting the grappling of Matthews, that's a path there for sure. Liam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I might have to support the troops with Pierce. When I'm looking at this on paper, right, I think there's 2 archetypes of guys that get brought back to the Contender series, right? I think there's guys that are brought back as cannon fodder where they're like, yeah, we know this guy's going to get smoked. So, well, let's put him in there with somebody we'd really like to sign. But I think there's another kind of fighter that they bring back, which is somebody like a Connor Matthews, where he goes out there, he fights really hard. He gave it his all, didn't get the nod, fought another guy who was young, way younger than him. So he went out there kind of in a tough spot, put on a tough fight, but didn't get the decision. So he went out there, got another finish regionally. He's got that Patriots hat on, right? He's from Boston. Certainly doesn't hurt when the head honcho is from Boston too, right? So maybe a little sympathy card. Plus you pull on the heartstrings. Hey, I'm with the troops, you know? So now my guy is like a little bit more marketable, a little bit more, somebody you want to get behind. And here's something else. I had notes on this guy, right? I mentioned because Connor Matthews fought on the Contender Series last season. He was training with Lozon MMA as his primary team at the time, and he was getting work in with the New England Cartel. Now the New England Cartel is his primary training facility. He's also managed by Tyson Chartier now. So he's one of these guys who's kind of in the circle of the Rob Fonts and the Calvin Caters and a bunch of other guys who have been getting signed to the UFC. Let's be very clear about that.
Nick Fiore.
Yeah, and there's more too. What's the guy from Contender Series who got that absolute tar beat out of him?
Mr. Pacheco, heart of a champion right there, my man.
Exactly. So a lot of these guys are getting, favorable looks, I think, from the UFC. Now, Fighting Nerds, another gym that the UFC, they have no problem signing guys from this gym. They know they're going to come in prepared. They're going to have core competencies in every skill set, but not everybody that comes out of every gym is going to be the best out there. And I just think of this as like, who are they trying to set up for success? Well, I know that they tried to set up Connor Matthews for success last time, and it didn't quite work out. And I thought Connor Matthews was going to win. That's the God's honest truth. I thought he was going to submit Francis Marshall in the first round. And by the way, I've cash fading Francis since then. So it's no disrespect. It's just like I felt like I had a read, and I went back to the well with it, right? Connor Matthews, I think if he goes out there with the intent that I'm going to take this guy to the ground and put my hooks in and finish him, I think he's good at doing that. Like, I think he's just got a good process for quickly finishing fights. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and it's over. I think what he did last time was get in his own head a little bit and think like, I need to manage my cardio for 15 minutes. I don't think that's what the Contender Series is all about. I think he should try and put this kid on his ass and finish him instantly. And I think he can do that because when he gets on top and he's fresh, he's just a hammer. And that's what I had written about him in my notes. I actually taped all his regional fights. Yeah, he wasn't fighting anybody good, but he would get on top of people, grab a hold of their wrist, punch him in the face, do whatever he needed to, and then get the choke. So I just feel like if that's what we see from him in this fight, he might just have what it takes to go out there and take a guy who hasn't been very active, put him on the ground and make him question what's up. And he's a guy that could easily be rebuilt and brought back to the show in the future if he lost here. Whereas Connor Matthews, this is a little bit make or break, right? How many opportunities are you going to get on Contender Series? Last time out, it didn't work. Here's another crack at it. I think this time he delivers.
I actually think they're both the same age for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's like 31 and 30. But I just mean in that sense, it's like if you get 2 opportunities in a row and lose them both, are they going to bring you back for another one? That's a little bit.
Yeah, I think Dana saw something in him, man. We saw him on Looking for the Fight, and Dana said, I can't say no to this guy. And, he's not going to give him a fucking choice tomorrow. The troops are going to break through the fucking door, and we're getting that first round submission, baby. Let's go. Hey, if y'all are American, I know, Gordo, you're Canadian, so maybe you can go ahead and bet for Rios. But all my Americans in here.
He's here now. He can be an honorary member if he wants.
Hey, I know some people. We can get you across the border, Gordo, if you want to back the troops with us.
Hey, I'm across the border right now, man. We'll talk about St. Louis, Missouri with our boy Romious coming up later. But I will say he did also see something in Jose Medina. So sometimes, we got to give credit to his judgment, maybe a little less than we do here. But I don't blame you. It seems like one where, yes, I understand the path for Matthews. And honestly, he's at a bigger plus money number than I honestly expected. I think when I was make sure I'm not talking wrong. I think he was a bit closer this morning when I was doing research on him. Yeah, the line's been back and forth. No, he was wide enough. Yeah, when I taped him, he was around that minus 130 price tag. So plus 150 has the ability to go out there, and you know what? Better plus money for you guys. So all power to you. Wish you the best of luck, and maybe he does it for the troops, as you guys will say there. So let's keep it moving now with another fun one too. That last one, I think maybe has a good clash of camps here. This is definitely a more interesting one with about a clash of 24-year-old prospects here, as we do have ourselves the 6-0 Andre Lima versus the 14-1 Rickson Thai Zenidim. 2 Brazilian prospects coming up facing each other at flyweight in what is bound to be a pretty interesting matchup. Zenidim was supposed to fight Borjas on week 1, didn't have the ability to go out there and do so. Now he's taking on this matchup here. I think it's a bit tougher one for him, if being honest. You got an undefeated prospect in front of him who's young, still making improvements, and still looks to have a decent overall skill set. I think is when we're looking at really their overall, let's say, work that they have bringing to the table here. one of them is much more technical than the other. One of them I think is going to have the much more, let's say, better fundamental skill set here in Andre Lima. And I do think although Zenidim is going to be explosive, he has a good ability to work in the pocket. I do think that Lima is going to be the more well-rounded fighter, and he should be favored. To this extent, I'm not too sure. However, he is going to be a pick in this matchup. Before I dive into any more in-depth breakdown, pass it over to you, Pierce. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, not passionate on this one, but I think I'm probably gonna regret this. I took a poke on my boy Rickson Ty. You know, he's been I've been on Instagram a little bit. I've been seeing this dude the whole fucking season. He's just calling for me. He's like, Dana White, give me a fight, Dana White. And he's been talking all that shit. So I go to the tape. I'm like, okay, I've seen this guy in the IG comments. He talks some mad games, so you know, maybe he's kind of nice. He is not that guy. Dana White should not give him a fight. That's all I'm gonna say. But here we are today, 14-1. Rickson Zenidim. He dodged the bullet, not being able to fight Kevin Borjas. Kevin Borjas would have fucking killed him. Sorry for the cursing. I know this is a kid's show, but I just feel like Lima, he's good. I mean, the kid's, I think he's literally been doing MMA professionally for like, I think a year, maybe a year and a half now. So he's very green in MMA, but you can tell he's a great kickboxing background, and his grappling's getting a lot better too. He's actually a BJJ brown belt, and I did poke at his submission prop, but I also played the Zenidim money line just because I just think it's a value play, man. I lined Lima. I thought they were going to open him the dog and we would get a crazy opener, but books know what's up, man. They probably saw the Zenidim tape, and it's like he tries to grapple. I guess that's a good way to put it. I think he's a grappler. I honestly don't even know. Sometimes he just wants to scrap it out on the feet, but I mean, I forget who the dude was, but there's this guy that was like 6-5. He's lucky to win that fight. I think he like memed a finish in the third round in a fight that he was pretty dominantly losing. But I guess at the end of the day, I saw Lima in his last fight. He kind of made some dumb grappling choices, and he ended up on bottom. And Zenidim, he's an opportunistic sub guy. I wouldn't say he's like an elite BJJ guy, but I mean, he is a black belt versus brown belt. So I know Liam can clarify, but you know, I think the black belt might catch a sub, but that's probably the only way Zenidim wins. I'm probably getting greedy. I want to. It's the last show. Come on, I want to have money on every fight, and I see some value on Zenidim. So I did like the Lima by sub though, because I think there's going to be a lot of grappling here. But if it stays on the feet, Zendim's getting knocked the fuck out. So maybe unders. What's the... Oh, no, that's 1.5 in a flyweight fight. That is no bueno. I cannot do that, but you know.
Minus 150 for the under 2.5.
Is that two? Yeah, is that not 1.5?
I'm looking at this one over here. Minus 150, under 2.5.
That's a good line. That's a good line. Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, I've never heard of this book in my life.
Yeah, that's a Ponzi scheme. Don't go on that book, Jazz Sports. I don't know what that is. I only know the Utah Jazz. I don't know Jazz Sports, but Zendim's, I mean, not Zendim. Lima's the rightful favorite, but it's like minus 275 on Contender Series. You guys not learned last week with my boy Taha. Them Brazilians that are plus 200 underdogs, they're live. My boy Zendim. I don't know how he's going to win. I don't think he will win, but you never know. It's a fight at the end of the day.
Well, man, you go out there and you wiki cap him at first, and he's got 10 submission wins. I expected him to be some really dominant Brazilian grappler, and he didn't impress me all too well, really. He didn't go out there and show the most powerful takedowns. He didn't go out there and show the most powerful striking from range either, and he just doesn't blow me off the page. I think he's a scrapper. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's a fighter at heart, and I think that's what you got to have here. But I think the more technical strike of the two by a while, the guy with the much better range and pop at the end of his punches is going to be someone in Lima. And in a 15-minute kickboxing affair, Lima wins this fight. And if you go in there, when we talk about strength and wrestling, I think that Lima's a better technical wrestler as well. And when it comes down to jiu-jitsu, maybe that's the one area where Zenidim may be able to be more opportunistic, because I do agree. I do think that Lima's kind of has his own flaws in those grappling changes as well. But I do think he himself is competent on the mat to survive those positions. And I think that the guys that Zenidim is going out there and submitting, well, I think Lima's able to survive and not put himself in those precarious situations. I do think Lima wins this fight here. Am I laying minus 275 on a 24-year-old fighter who's making these mistakes? Probably not, but I do think he's the much better technical fighter of the two. And let's see if Liam agrees. Liam, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm not even trying to be a contrarian. I just feel like I'm coming in this week without knowing the lines, and so it's given me the opportunity to just pick some underdogs without as much pressure on my back. You know, I'm going to go with Hickson in this one. number one, you got two guys around a similar age, but one guy's got way more MMA experience. And I think that when you look at what Rickson brings to the table, I think that he is the guy who's more likely to get takedowns in this matchup by far. I just did not like Lima's takedown defense. When you look, how has Rickson been beaten in the past? He got taken down. The guy just completely wrote him out. If you guys have watched that fight, the guy just wrote him out with takedowns. God bless him for it. I mean, he put on a really hard wrestling performance. That guy looks like a good fighter. I think he's got like a 15-1 record or something. So that guy was no slouch. Put a wrestling performance on him. Is this guy who's a kickboxer going to go out there and just wrestle him? I don't see that. So I feel like he will be the much more comfortable guy taking this to the wrestling and the grappling. I feel like his grappling is superior from what I saw on tape as well. So I think in terms of physicality, I think Lima's a little bit more physical. I think he's a little bit stronger, but I actually think Rickson's like a touch longer in the frame. Like if you look at the two guys face off, I felt like he actually looked a tiny bit taller, and the guy was doing the shush and the whole thing. He's got a lot of confidence. He's doing the whole bit. He looks like a favorite, but I don't know, man. Just a guy that seems like an absolute scrapper. In all those fights, he's still live into the third round. Even that fight that he lost, he was pushing that guy in round 3. So I just feel like he's got good cardio. He's got a good ability to push a pace. He's not afraid to fight anybody. I didn't seem like his chin was like a huge liability either. He was getting hit and going, hit me again, and then throwing 5-punch combinations. So he seems super aggressive. He clearly wants to be here as much as anybody, right? In terms of what Pierce was saying, motivation at an all-time high. So then I would have come into this blind thinking like, all right, probably, it's going to be a really close fight and, maybe a slight plus money on Rickson. I'm seeing plus 220. It would have to be Rickson or pass for me pretty clearly, actually.
You think anybody has anthropomorphic advantages in this spot?
Let me take a look on the Fight Center. It looks like they're the same height and reach listed on ESPN Fight Center. So, yeah, no anthropomorphic advantages, same age. Rickson is the guy with more fights, and I actually think he's the better grappler from what I saw. So give me Rickson.
Yeah, also my man Big Steve, I think he's seen what's under them trunks for my boy Zenidim. So let's just say some anthropomorphic advantages right there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Lou was pointing out that you haven't said anthropomorphic advantages yet, so we had to give him there.
I've kept it calm on the anthropomorphic advantages. You never know when they'll break out.
Yeah, dude, they're lethal when they come out here too. Pierce has apparently said, end of the day, 16 times. I know I say gun to my head a lot, so I'm gonna kind of try to say that away because we got to give picks at the end of the day, right? What's forcing you more to give a pick than a gun to your head? Come on, we'll break it down. We all got our catchphrases. That's okay.
Hey, blink twice if you need help, Gordon.
I'm not allowed to. All right, we'll keep. Actually, guys, we're in the States right now. We never know how far away Cortavious Romious may be from you. And that man is lethal. And that is the man we're breaking down next year in this main event of the evening. Are you not entertained? If you are, hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Show some love because we're breaking down this main event. We do have the returning 8-2 Ramon Taveras versus the 7-1 Cortavious Are Not Entertained Romious. Shout out to our boy Lou. Did an interview with him. Good look for Cortavious, not gonna lie, getting some fans that way, and it's boding well for him so far. The nickname's there, the full name's there, the interviews are going well. All power to him. You go out there, the tape backs it up, man. The guy's fun. The guy's got the highlight reels going out there. The guy has a fun style to go out there and to bring to the cage. He seems to be a very good guy to have on Dana White Contender Series, right? When you're going out there, when you're having that personality go out there and go and do well, and you're backing up with not only athleticism, but these highlight reels that you want to go out there and show in a Contender Series. It's fun to go out there and watch them. Me, myself, I'm going to school down in St. Louis, Missouri. Cortavious, are you not entertained from there as well? Come on. I love to cheer for this guy. He's going up there against Ramon Taveras. And the story behind Taveras is he fought an early in Dana White Contender Series. He got knocked out in a controversial stoppage, right? He was still very conscious, but he did get dropped in that matchup. They rebooked him here. They do like him. Dana White was just appalled by that calling off, but we won't get into that one too much. But from my point of view, we did have someone there who I bet against Taveras, right? I picked CD in that one there. A little bit of Canadian bias, but a guy who I thought had a ground advantage there, a guy who I thought had the competency in the striking to go out there and keep up with Ramon Taveras, and a guy who I just thought brought different levels to the game. Because Ramon Taveras, although a very, very good, solid boxer, a guy who has the ability to go out there and have the technicality, have some decent power and pop in of his punches, is limited to that. On the ground, I think he can be taken down. He can be controlled. He can be put into these precarious situations. On the feet, I think he's just limited to those hands. I don't think his kicks are really too much of a weapon for him. And I think there's different weapons from his opponents that can help him lose the optics that way as well, to per se. Add in the fact that he was just knocked down, maybe, he was hurt not too long ago in the Contender series by maybe the not most powerful guy at all of them, is City there. We do have ourselves a question marks on the Taveras side. If he can't go out there and grapple at a high level, if he can't go out there and win minutes with multiple levels, if his chin is questionable as well, what's to say he's going to go out there and have any success against the tank of a man here in Romious, who not only has the ability to throw with fighting intention on the feet, but is a grappler, has the ability to go out there and use his ground game to his advantage, who has to go out there, the ability to have some success, and someone who the UFC is looking to, in my opinion, promote after what I've seen from him on tape. So to me, I think we have a spot where I just went out there and I backed a guy who could potentially wrestle against Taveras. Now I see a guy who will probably definitely wrestle against Taveras here. I have to side with Romious here. Not only does he have a cool nickname, not only did his interview with Lou made me like him, but I do really think he has advantages in this spot. He can go out there and exploit, and I do think he should win this fight here. Pierce. We'll let Liam take over this one, the final one of the show. I've been to Pierce a bunch recently. Go ahead.
While Liam's talking, do you think you can maybe pull up the clip I posted on Twitter of his knockout? I feel like there's someone in here that hasn't seen that. That is the craziest knockout I've seen while watching tape this. All right, Liam, you got it, man.
I will pull that up right now. We're gonna pass it over to Liam though, because it's sad, man. It's a final breakdown of the year. Let us have it.
Sure thing. I mean, it seems like everybody really likes Cortavius, and I think he's a fun, likable guy. I listened to multiple interviews from him this week. Shout out to our guy, Lou. He was kind of making the rounds a little bit, and he seems to have an interesting story. Seems to be a guy that's working hard, but watching that Jornal Lugo fight, I do have some question marks, to tell you the truth, because I thought he slowed down like really significantly over the course of that fight. And, you talked about before how, somebody exceeded expectations with the big muscular build, but that is some of the limitations that we see sometimes with big muscular builds, is that it's hard to sustain when you're doing big actions like spinning head kicks and stuff. When it works, you got a highlight reel on your hands, but when it doesn't, you can be a little bit of a spent force later on in the fight. And I felt like Jornal Lugo, he's not like a world beater either. He made some mistakes in that fight. He was giving up some positions in that fight, but he was able to just outlast him. I didn't feel like he was the better fighter. I just felt like he lasted longer and was able to keep what he was doing going for longer. So I look at Taveras and I look at that last fight, and I thought that Taveras in that fight got overconfident. If you look at that fight, he lands the same amount of strikes as Saidi, but what happened was he got overconfident. Hands are here. He's like, he took one shot and like smiled at him and then took a 1-2, fell to the ground. And I thought it was a bad stoppage. At the time, I didn't really have an opinion of it. I was like, whatever. But then I rewatched it today, and the ground and pound lands on his chest. It doesn't even hit him on the chin. Like the ground and pound, he's like sitting up and it hits him here, and the referee stops it, and he just looks at the referee in slow motion. So I felt like him and Dana White and Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard all had the same reaction, which was like, why'd they stop that fight? So for me, again, I always think to myself, why is he here? The matchmakers brought him back out of sympathy, in my opinion. They were like, damn, like this was an unfortunate result. He should have had more of an opportunity to fight. And so we want to bring him back. I don't think he was that hurt, personally. I think he kind of just was off balance. He got caught square with a 1-2, if you know what I'm saying, like both feet in line. So he just got knocked backwards as though he had been tabletopped. But I don't think he was actually rocked, and I think that's why it was a bad stoppage. But in any case, he does have another knockout, 1 loss on his record. So it's not like he can't get chinned, right? He's definitely been chinned before. And Romious has power, right? So he can knock him out. But I just worry about what happens in an extended fight at a big chalk price tag for a guy who's going to be coming in here against a guy who has experience on the Contender series, right? It's not going to be a big thing for him now to come in. He's already gotten those jitters out. He's gotten that first round out. And here's the other thing. What will focus the mind considerably? Having your opportunity almost slip away. This guy was out there, and I thought he was damaging the face of City badly. Like City's face was looking swollen up. His eye was starting to get messed up. He was landing clean shots on his face, and he got arrogant. He was like, I got this guy. And then he's like coming in with his hands down and just got caught. And I feel like in this fight, he's going to be calculated, and he's going to try and take this guy out with vicious power. And he's a really aggressive guy. So I just think this could turn into a very volatile fight. And once again, it just doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to consistently justify a minus 200 price tag. So I'm not trying to shit on a guy that seems like a nice guy that people like in the community. I wish him the best. But for me, it's just a fight where I think Roman Taveras is very live. I think he could win this fight by knockout. I wouldn't be surprised by that. And I also think that Romious, his ground game is coming along. It's definitely not bad. But I feel like he's made some questionable decisions on the mat as well that could lead to him getting submitted. I don't think Taveras is necessarily that guy, but I just don't think a ground performance is the cleanest win for him either. I've seen him make some mistakes while he's pursuing fights on the ground. So that's my opinion, but let's see what happens. I'm leaning towards a lot of underdogs, as you guys could tell. And I just go where my heart is. I don't look at the lines beforehand. So for me, it just feels like a lot of live underdogs this week. I would probably be spraying the board and hoping that, some of the variance goes my way, because that's what it's feeling like to me. It seems like people are getting confident on a lot of sides. And for me, it's just like, these are a lot of violent finishers that both have their own paths. And I think a guy like Taveras, especially, could you get a higher motivation spot? It's all or nothing for this guy right now. So Romious will be back. Win, lose, draw, or indifferent, this guy would be back. This guy will have many more opportunities. But I think that this guy, he got his shot. It didn't work out because of some referees. Hey, let's run it again. And I think that the UFC would not mind signing a guy like Taveras either. So for me, both these guys, super marketable. That knockout shot, I wouldn't want to be on the other end of it. So we wish him the best. Hell of a fighter. But for me, I think that Roman is a live underdog.
I think Ramon's live to get knocked out like my boy David Evans. Yeah, but Liam, when my boy Are You Not Entertained gets it done tomorrow, I expect you to give a formal apology to our man Lou. How dare you do that? Nah, but it's all good, man. It's all, at the end of the day, we're allowed to have different opinions. And I get where you're coming from, man. When you watch Cortavius fight, I mean, you see here, the kid's explosive. Brings a lot of power. But he's a grappler. He's going to, I think, in this matchup, you got Roman who's going to walk for it. I haven't really seen Roman really take the back foot, but that's my boy Lucy Cater right there, man. Remember that day? That's hilarious. But
I was surprised by the French.
No, that dude's going to be a future UFC champ. Remember the name, but that's off topic. But I guess in this matchup, I see it as a grappler versus striker. I mean, you look at Cortavius and a lot of his fights. I think actually, guys, if you guys didn't watch it, he actually fought David Onama on the amateur scene. I think it was his last amateur fight for Romious. That was a competitive fight. I mean, he lost to Onama. It was a close decision, back and forth scrambles. And the thing with Romious is, man, I just think this guy, he's just a fighter, man. He'll fight anybody. I mean, his last fight was at 150. This is at bantamweight now. This dude's taken a lot of fights at featherweight in his career. And I just think he's someone where it's like it's like my boy Torres Finney, man. Anybody, anywhere. He's gonna fight. And I guess at the end of the day, I did get on the early end of the day. Sorry, I got a Jewish better. You got me overthinking now. But I guess Cortavius in this matchup, I see multiple paths to victory. Whereas Taveras, we don't really know what his grappling looks like. I mean, I've seen glimpses on the amateur scene of him getting taken down because I tried to go deep. I'm like, I really need to see what Taveras is off his back. I think I saw him taken down like in 2 different fights with like the end of the rounds, and he didn't really. I think he was like attacking arm bars. He didn't really get up. He got not saved by the bell, but he was on his back till the bell. And there's just not enough data on his grappling. I mean, maybe he's one of those guys that can pop right back up, but I guess when I look at Romious, I think he can get the takedowns as long as he doesn't get over aggressive. Because I've seen in a lot of his fights, he'll jump the back and he'll fall off, and maybe he ends up on bottom. But I guess he's the better grappler, and maybe he can knock him out. I mean, Taveras is, what is it, like a month turnaround for him? I did bet his KO prop because maybe it's that highlight reel I saw that's getting in my head, stuck in my head. But I don't know. I could be too early for Taveras. Maybe he gets knocked out 2 straight weight cuts. I mean, I know the stoppage wasn't great, but it's weird. Dana's acting like that's the worst thing he's seen in his life. I mean, he did get dropped pretty clean by my boy City. And I don't know. The reason I played the KO prop is because Ramirez has good ground and pound, man. And I just think, I don't know if Taveras is chinny, but I get the vibe that he is. It seems like he's protected, in my opinion. He hasn't fought that many good guys, whereas Romious, Liam was kind of getting on him for the Jornal Lugo fight. I think Jornal Lugo's like fringe UFC level. I think he's a really good fighter, but agree to disagree. I just think Taveras, this is his biggest step up in competition. I guess City technically is, but City's a different stylistic matchup. Romious is gonna put him on the back foot, and I don't know if he's gonna like being on the back foot because we always see Taveras. He's a bully. What's gonna happen when he gets bullied? Might get slept. Tune in tomorrow to find out. But I guess that's a good way to leave it. But yeah, Romious KO, and the unders are probably safe. I see minus 200 on the screen right now. I expect violence in this fight, man. Taveras is gonna come to scrap, and I don't think Romious, if it's on the ground, he's attacking subs every like 30 seconds. He's a purple belt. You know what them purple belts do? Mad submission attacks. So maybe Romious ITD is the way to play him. Don't get cute with the KO or sub. But do you know what the price is on the ITD? I never got a chance to look.
Minus 110. Or minus 115.
It's okay. Maybe just throw a dart and try to guess the method of victory. But yeah, I like Romious to get it done by a knockout. I like this kid, man. Maybe it's a little bit biased. Go check out my boy Lou, MMA Engine. They did a great interview with him. Good kid, man. I'll just add a little tidbit from the interview. Apparently, Romious, they had like a little meeting with his boss, and his boss is like, "What's more important to you, your job or your fighting career?" And he was like, "Of course, it's my fighting career." And then it was like a job that he's worked at for like the past 2 years. And then the next week, the boss and someone from HR comes to him, and he's like, "We're letting you go because of your lack of productivity and your attitude." And so basically, he's got no job right now, man. This man's locked in, bro. This is the opportunity of his life. I think Romious is going to put on a show, man. I think he's somebody the fans are going to be attracted to. And I just think he's someone that could maybe not be a star, but I think he could be someone to watch out for in the UFC. Fun kid. His fights are always entertaining, and he's a very likable guy. But yeah, Cortavius Romious season, baby. Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained indeed? And no, that is I think it's a very fun matchup to end the season, really, to be honest. I mean, I was really looking forward to like potentially seeing some good things from Cortavius, not only the interview from Lou, but being from St. Louis, being a guy who seems to be a nice guy. I wanted to see good things, and I feel like I did. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, Taveras, I'm stealing it from you, man. It's rubbing off. Taveras is someone who I think is there to be hit, and without that durability, being dropped by City's jab, not really the biggest punch from City as well. I think that's definitely a risk factor as well. So I think Romious has more paths to getting it done. Is there a world where I see Taveras being able to walk down Cortavius, land some damaging shots, and put him on the back foot and have success doing so? Yeah, potentially, but I don't think it's too likely of an implication here. I do think that Romious has more opportunities to get it done, whether it be on the ground, whether it be with the power shots, whether it be with him pressuring forward. I like this kid, and I am cheering for him this weekend. Should be fun. I think I might like the under better, but I do think Cortavius getting in there looking for a finish, so that should be the way to go. I do like this spot here, and it's a good one for us to end the season off on. So with that, guys, there is 51 of you guys tuning in. Make sure to like button down below, subscribe to the channel. We are going to give our quick picks for every single fight on this card. Before I do so, shout out to everyone hanging out here. Lou's got some choice words for Liam. You don't go against Cortavius. You don't go against him, man. So you got to be careful here. Lou's blocked and reported for sure. Mushrooms there. Jared's also saying that you made the list. You don't bet against Cortavius. Come on, man. We'll have to see. But hey, Liam ain't gonna lie to you, man. He does his research. He's there for sure. Yep. Nice finish on the screen as well. Jewish better counting how many times you said that. Parlays will be given out for sure. Liam's hit 2 in a row, so we got to make sure we get to that shortly after I'm done talking here. I agree with Just Win Baby here too. I don't know what he's doing down there, but fun stuff there. Romious arm put. Nice show, guys. All right, let's get some quick picks. All right, an hour and 18 in. I'm going to try to actually make these quick this time, but let's break down every single fight here. The 6 on the do so. I will be the selfish one to go first. Very first fight of the night. Davey Costa, Lucas Rocha. We do have Rocha coming back in after missing weight last week. It is coming up at 135. To me, that can mean a multitude of different things. I did originally put a bit of stock into that weight miss for Rocha, but the way this line is moving, we do have ourselves pretty much a pick 'em depending on what book you look at. And I think both these guys have their flaws to which neither of them should be trusted at chalk. So I kind of like where the line is. I think it's kind of justified. I think Costa's going to have the ability to go out there, utilize that ground game, throw with fighting attention on the feet as well. But the more competent striker, the more technical striker, I think the guy who can go out there and pose a threat in the feet over the course of 15 minutes, maybe Rocha. With that being said, the guy with more paths is Costa. So whereas both these guys have the ability to go out there and be knocked out, whereas Rocha has the ability to be taken down, they both have their avenues. They both have their opportunities for success. I myself personally like the under more than anything due to their defensive liabilities. But to me, this kind of feels like a pass fight to get the night started. gun to my head, I have to go to Costa because I like my guys who have multiple paths to get it done. But would I be surprised if Rocha is able to box his way to a solid either decision win or finish win here against Costa? Not at all. I think Rocha is a very technical striker who's got the ability to get it done well. Interesting one here. Next up, Isakov versus Mederos. This is one I'm kind of going back and forth on, man, because you do look at the ability for Isakov to go out there and have success on the mat. He is very dominant, very good wrestler in his own right. Good ability to be explosive in that regard. But I don't like the way he takes damage. I don't like the way he can strike on the feet as well. And I do think that on the feet, Mederos is able to have success. The problem is on tape, Mederos likes to get takedowns of his own regard. He likes to mix it up that way, and he isn't the guy with the most one-shot power, in my opinion. With that being said, I do think he's going to try to fight as the later round goes on, go out there and try to look for that finish. So it's another matchup where the under might be in play. And although I think Isakov may be my gun to my head pick, I do think Mederos is getting more live as the line continues to improve, just because he's going to have that advantage on the feet. And we have seen Isakov hurt on the feet before if he doesn't decide to go to that wrestling. On the mat, probably Isakov, so I might be staying away from this one as well, maybe the under. This next one here is very, very interesting because we do have a big height and reach discrepancy for Panferov. The problem is he hasn't fought anybody, right? Neither has Finney, but Panferov really has those Karankush revived. That's kind of why Finney's being ballooned up to that price tag. With that being said, we have a wrestler versus a grappler here, and Finney being the more dominant wrestler, but Panferov being a guy who likes to go out there and grapple. He's going to actually show resistance to Finney, something that Finney has not really seen before, leading Panferov to have potentially be a live underdog, climbing almost up to plus 200 here, in my opinion. Yeah, I do think Finney should be a slight favorite because he has fought the better level of competition, can go out there and use his wrestling to have some success. But at the end of the day, he hasn't fought anyone either, or hasn't really shown the ability to go out there and live up to that minus 240 price tag. Sure, Panferov hasn't made it out of round one because he's fighting cans, but he's beating these cans accordingly. He's showing the ability to show a really competent ground game, and he's looking like he's on the right with the right doctor to go out there and have some success, throw some curveballs towards Finney way. I would not be surprised if Panferov goes out there and finds a submission or throws adversity towards Finney, being the much larger, rangier fighter here. But I do think gun to my head I'd pick Finney, but Panferov is very live. I might get there in one regards. Matthews was Farias, very, very close as well. Don't really want to get in front of the Fighting Nerds camp because I do think they're going to teach him to go out there and have success, especially with a guy from Matthews. Although he does have a grappling ability to go out there and grapple, he doesn't really do it to the most extent. He can be hit. He has the ability to lose optics that way as well. And without him implementing his offensive striking, I think Farias can piece him up towards a 3-round decision there, which is why I'm kind of leaning towards the over in this matchup. If I knew for a fact Matthews is going to go out there and grapple at a high pace, go out there and have some success, well, I would take him here because I do think Farias has a hole in his ground game. But in a 15-minute striking affair, I think Matthews can be hit. Although he's very dynamic, he's going to be at a height and reach disadvantage here that Farias can take advantage on the feet. And I do think that he's going to be a pick to succeed in this one. With that being said, I do think the better money line side here is Matthews because he is going to have that path to victory if he opts to use it. But instead, I'll look to probably playing the over 1.5 due to that durability of Matthews and due to the seeing without me seeing any proof of Matthews going out there and grappling early on, do his one step up in competition against Francis Fire Marshall. Zenidim versus Lima. I do like the Lima side here, man. I see Zenidim, and I heard some love from Zenidim from Liam, but I don't see it as much. I don't think he's the most technical guy. I think he's got flaws in his game. Yes, he's a dog. Yes, he's got that fighting mentality, but I don't think he has the most technicality to go out there and win optics. It's going to be him really trying to focus or force an arrow to Lima, which is definitely a possibility. But overall, the more skilled fighter, in my opinion, is Lima. I do think he's a better technical striker. I do think he has the ability to compete on the ground as well, and he's going to probably be the better wrestler of the two. Zenidim, like I said, has that dog mentality, but without really a good ability to take it down to the ground repetitively, a good ability to mix up in the striking as well. I do think Lima is the rightful favorite, and he's decided rather back in this matchup. Main event time, Romious Taveras. Taveras coming back in here. His durability is in question. His ground game's in question. Level competition's in question. Romious is someone who's fun, who's got a good entertaining highlight reel as well, has a good ability to mix it up on the ground, powerful on the feet as well. I think he's the guy brought in here to have success, and he is someone, being from St. Louis, I'm looking here to back. I'm taking the favorite here, but also looking towards an underdog. Really fun stylistic matchup here. I do think there's a world where Taveras can walk him down and have success on the feet, but the guy with more paths, especially on the ground, especially with the way that Taveras was dropped by CD early on, if I took CD against Taveras, I got to take Romious here in that power. So give me Romious in the main event. Really, really fun 6-fight card. Liam, will pass it to you next. We know he went out there and gave. Actually, I'll give you guys a Hail Mary parlay here for Mushroom as well while Liam gets ready to with his notes here. My Hail Mary would be Romious inside the distance, Lima by decision, and Panferov by sub. It's contrarian plays there, some decent plus money. Hopefully that pays off. Liam has been the hot hand with the parlays. We'll pass it over to him. What are your quick picks?
Yeah, prayers up, because I unfortunately can never take my own advice. I haven't been betting these parlays, but I hope you guys haven't been making coins, because we've been doing quite well on these, and I've been trying to keep it to 3 legs typically. So we'll give that at the end. But what I'll do quickly is just circle through my thoughts here. I think that the first fight is very competitive, but I'm leaning towards the Rocha side. Just think he's got a little bit more upside in terms of his grappling if this fight goes to the mat. And I haven't necessarily seen a ton of knockout power from Bittencourt on the feet. And that's where I think he's most susceptible. So I feel like the younger guy with more experience got to lean towards that side at plus money. When I'm looking at the next fight, Isakov is going to be my pick there. I just think he's going to get takedowns in top time. I think he's going to dominate from those positions. If it stays on the feet, it's going to be a different fight. I think he's susceptible to being leg kicked. I think that's where his opponent could have the most success. But I just think that this guy knows what the game plan is. I think he knows where his bread is buttered in this matchup. That's getting on top. So I think that's what he's going to do. In the next fight, I think Yuri Panferov is another live underdog. Reason being, he's coming down to a weight class where he looks like he's in really good shape. Looks like he put in the right level of preparation, training with a lot of pros. And I feel like this is a guy that is probably being underrated because of his level of competition. So give me Panferov to pull off the upset there. And I agree with you, Gordo. I think it's coming via way of submission. When I look at the next fight, super volatile matchup for me. 2 gyms that are both very good and producing UFC level fighters. One of them's plus money, and he's already been on the Contender series. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Connor Matthews here. I feel like Dana's got a little bit of personal love in his heart for him. I think he wants to see him succeed, and I think that he can make it happen on the ground, or he could gut out a close decision here. So for those reasons, siding with the underdog Connor Matthews. I'm going to go with the underdog Rickson ties Zenidim. I think he's got more experience here, and I think he's got more ways to win by taking this fight to the mat. I think that his opponent is certainly dangerous as a kickboxer on the feet, but I thought he looked like a guy who gets barreled over on takedowns quite frequently. So I think Rickson knows what the game plan is for this one. Get in his face, take him down, make the octagon small. It's already a small octagon. He's not going to have that much space to operate. I think he's going to back him up with pressure. I think he's going to grab a hold of him and rip him to the ground. So give me Rickson to get on top and implement his game plan. And in that main event of the evening, most bullish on this fight, not going the distance. I feel like these two guys are going to get out there and absolutely swang and bang with each other. But I just feel like Taveras is a guy that's probably going to be a little bit underlooked in this spot because he came in and he got knocked down in his last fight. I think the matchmakers saw that it maybe didn't go that way. I didn't see it necessarily going that way. I feel like it's a guy who more so got off balanced. So for me, I think optics say this guy's been knocked out twice in the first round. I think the reality is he's been knocked out once in the first round. He's fought some other tough guys. He's 3-0 career to the submission, and he's gotten some UFC level wins. So despite it being low level stuff, Charles Crazy Horse Bennett, Martin Day, these aren't wins that are going to jump off your resume, but you have to get them on the regional scene to get here. He's a guy that looked like he was ready, right? He's boxing up City, in my opinion, landing good, clean shots, got overconfident and got caught. I feel like now he's coming in focused, plus 200. I think he's going to have a lot to offer here if this fight extends beyond the first round. I'll tell you what, if this fight ends in round 1, I think you guys will probably be seeing Romious get his hand raised here. But I think the longer this fight goes, the more likely he is to slow down. And I think Taveras will be able to turn up the pressure on him a little bit later on in this fight. So for me, that's what I'm looking at here. Underdog City. And if I was to build out this parlay for you guys, I'm going to start with Isakov and Panferov. We're ending with the OVs here. It's going to get you plus 333, and that's a 2-legger. If you added Rickson, it's going to get you all the way up to 12-1. If you added Connor Matthews and supported the troops like me and Pierce, you're getting 33-1. And if you add Taveras in that main event, you're looking at 100-1 plus return. So not a big parlay guy myself, but that's what I'm looking at. God bless, good luck, and have a good Contender series, guys. Thanks for always supporting.
Hey, as always, man, we love breaking down these fights with you. We'll get to you plugging your channel shortly here. Let's give Pierce his quick picks, man. What are your thoughts on this card?
My man Liam's going dog hunting this tomorrow night, but I'm going a little dog hunting too. Maybe not the same dogs as him, but I guess it goes to show this episode. It's very volatile. I guess it's one of those where it's like we're gonna see, like Liam said, a lot of violence. So I expect us to all enjoy a great finale to the season. But going into the quick picks, you got Davy Costa versus Lucas Rocha. I feel like everyone's kind of overblowing this weight miss narrative. At the end of the I'm not going to say end of the day, but I guess when you look at Rocha, he's I think he's more dangerous. I think he has more tools to win this fight. Where Costa, I'm not a big fan of his wrestling. I know that's the path that people are gonna point out. He can get a top time. We saw in Rocha's last LFA fight, he got his back taken in the first round, and he was lucky to get that win. But the reason why is because he's dangerous on the feet, man. He's someone that's gonna build as fights go, and it's like Costa. Maybe the 2 weight cuts, maybe he slows down. So I just think Roach is more dangerous, and I just think he's got more paths to victory. So not gonna overthink that. He's dog odds. I like being on an island. It makes me more confident in some of these fights. But next fight, we got Markel Mederos versus Isakov. I'm gonna roll with Jamal Murray Jr. and Markel Mederos. At the end of the Jesus, I didn't realize how much I said this word, but Isakov, he's someone that you don't really trust to be laying minus 200 on. I mean, he's a good wrestler. That's in theory his path is the top time to get single legs or double legs against the cage. But Markel Mederos, I think he's a young fighter. I think he's getting better, and I think he has more paths to victory. It just comes down to if Isa's cardio holds up, because he's cutting down to 155 for the second time in his career, and his cardio's been a little bit spotty in the past, and I see someone that's kind of hittable on the feet. So if Mederos can sprawl and brawl, he trains at elevation, guys. So maybe he puts the pace on Isakov and can break him down the stretch. But I like the overs in that fight. I think that's a good bet. I also like Mederos money line. He's my favorite dog on the card. And Finney versus Panferov. I just think Panferov, he's a knockoff Sergey Spivak. I don't know if those upper body clinch takedowns are going to work on Torres Finney. That's a tank of a man. And I think Torres is just a better athlete. He's faster. Finney has fought at 205, so he's used to throwing around guys the size of Panferov. And I just think he's going to get the double leg takedowns. It just comes down to if he can stay safe from the cheeky submissions that Panferov is going to throw up. But I understand why people want to play Yuri. Torres is probably not someone long-term we want to play at these odds, but I just think it's a good matchup for him. I think his athleticism is going to win him this one, and I've seen him go 15 minutes. Haven't seen Yuri go outside the first round, so we're just speculating that he has good cardio. I'm going to go Finney. We'll go, I think late finish or decision. I think his decision numbers are a tad wide. But Farias versus Matthews. It's tough to get a read on this Farias kid, man. I'm not sure how good he is. There's 2 fights, one from 2019, one from this year. I don't like how he doesn't address kicks. And I've seen Matthews. He's got a little nice kicks from low kicks. He's got a nice left body kick as well. So I know Farias looked a lot bigger at the face-off. So maybe Liam mentioned he could go for takedowns here, but I'm not confident enough to say that Matthews is going to hit takedowns here. I just think it's a scrappy fight, man. I don't like some of the stuff Farias does defensively. He's got good offensive striking. He could catch Matthews. Matthews does keep his head on his center line, but he's moved to New England cartel full time, so maybe we're seeing improvements from him. It's now or never for Connor Matthews, and I know he's going to fight for our money. It's all you can ask for in a fighter, and I support the troops. So we're going Connor Matthews by decision. And then Zenidim versus Lima. I'm picking Lima outright to win, but I do have a position on Zenidim money line. I think I think Lima minus 170, minus 175 is more accurate, just because he's a young kid. He's been in MMA for like a year and a half now, and Zenidim, I wasn't a big fan of his tape at all. I taped it before the odds came out. I'm like, holy shit, I want to fade this guy. And he opened a big dog. So I guess Zenidim, he's scrappy. I don't think he's has much longevity in the UFC, but he's someone that I think is going to I think he's going to fight for my money. And I think if Lima entertains the grappling, because we know Zendim's going to look to grapple, whether it's maybe pull guard or maybe just get a takedown. If Lima entertains the grappling, I think he could jump for some submissions and lose position, and it could just be a scramble fest where at flyweight, we see a lot of these fights, they're high-paced, could be back-and-forth scrambles where the minus 275, minus 300, where he maybe wins a close fight, but I'm not laying these odds on a flyweight fight. It just screams dog or pass, but more so pass. I just wanted to bet on this fight, so I took a poke at the money line. And Romious versus Taveras, man. Are you not entertained? And I think Cortavius is going to entertain all of us to end the season. I like this kid, man. I understand that he's a bit wild, but that's kind of his style. He likes to create madness in the cage, and I just think Taveras, he's a great hammer, but I don't think he's the best nail, man. I think Romious he's gonna hurt him on the feet. I think the takedowns are honestly going to be there at will, but I really like Romious' submission attacks, purple belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's very aggressive going for these submissions. He could find a submission on Taveras, but at the end of the day, we don't know what Taveras' bottom game's like, so It's a big question mark, so I understand why people want to take the shot, but I just see Romious. He's an athletic guy. He's fought at featherweight before. He's fought guys that are bigger than him, so he's honestly got the better level of competition by a wide margin, too. He's fought David Onama, Jornal Lugo. Both those guys, I believe, are better than Roman Taveras. And I'm going to go with the under as well. I think that's a great way to play this fight. It's going to be a lot of violence. But I think Romious KO has a little value just in general. I just think he's going to get it done. I trust this kid. I'm a believer in Cortavious Romious, guys. And it's a great season, guys. Sad that it's ending, but I appreciate you guys bringing me on halfway through the year. Try to provide all the insight I can. Sorry, I drank some caffeine before I got on this. Had to stay up, so I'm a little wired up. But, you had to bring the energy for the last episode, baby. Let's go. Shout out my boy, Jose Medina. Peru, or no, it's not Peru. I'm sorry. Bolivia is in the UFC. Viva Bolivia!
Well, thanks for bringing the energy for me, my friend, because, I was sitting here looking at my biochemistry equations while you're talking, and it's like, man, can we get past this day? Can we get to some 6 fights tomorrow? That'd be much better. You got a parlay to give.
I didn't give a parlay. I'm sorry. Try my best here. It would be an honor to catch a parlay on the last episode. Davy Costa money line, Markel Mederos money line. Did I say Davy Costa? Oh my, sorry. Scratch that. Not Davy Costa. Lucas Rocha money line, Markel Mederos money line, Torres Finney money line, Cortavious Romious money line, and Connor Matthews money line. We got 3 dogs, 2 favorites. We're leaving the Lima fight alone. It's 26-1. So, as my boy Jewish Better says, 26 shekels. We're going to cash them shekels for all the people tomorrow. Let's go, baby.
Well, over an hour and a half into this breakdown, we are done here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Let's give one final shout out to the chat here who's been hanging out with us the whole way. Liam for sure. And like Mushroom said here, make sure to check out the interview on Liam's channel as well. Thank you to Jewish Better, not only for showing some love here, talking to the dog, but also for the dono at the start of the show as well. Frank hanging out here saying thanks guys for the content. Solid. He also asked who wins the Penguins versus Lightning game tomorrow. Well, Frank, it's actually the Penguins versus the Blackhawks tomorrow. Connor Bedard versus Sidney Crosby. New age versus the old age. And oh no,
we lost him, but I think he was going to pick the Blackhawks to win, if I'm correct, Frank. But yeah, it's an honor talking to you guys. I don't know if our man Gordo is going to come back to give his final words on the season, but like always, guys, like and subscribe. And I know Liam, like and subscribe to him. And I got to give out, I'll add, because I got to get going. I got a test tomorrow morning. But Bet MMA Tips, BigBird UFC. I give out free picks, guys. I'm not here to charge nobody. I know they're openers, but I write breakdowns now for them. So I'm trying to give all my advice to these people because I tape a lot. And we got Cage Warriors coming up this week, guys. I'm really confident in that card. I already done taping it, just waiting on odds right now. I think that's going to be how we're going to make some money this week. Hopefully we make it Tuesday, Saturday. Go make some money on some Cage Warriors Dublin. Let's go, baby. Thank you guys as always, man. It was a pleasure.
Appreciate you, Pierce. Thank you for joining us on the show. And yes, I don't know what happened there with my camera, but my camera just turned off. They didn't want to give out some hockey picks. They're like, come on, you're an hour and 30 in, talking to you on Contender series. Let's get on with it. So for one last time, Plays Fade YouTube channel for this year, because we'll have to talk some UFC normally. Liam, tell people where they can find you.
Sure thing, my brother. You can find me everywhere, picking fights at LiamPicksFights. That's on Twitter. That's on YouTube. That's on Spotify as well. Very close to 100 followers on Spotify. Trying to get my numbers up on the podcast. A lot of people, they'll find the show on YouTube. So however is easiest for you, find me there. Picking fights always. And Gordo, it's been another fun year, my man. Hopefully we can do well to close it out and right back at it for next season.
Sounds good to me, my man. I appreciate you for joining me as always. It's always what I look forward to, man. It wasn't what we started off doing, but we've been doing this for a few years solid and profit every year so far, and that's all we can ask for. So to all those who have watched every season with us so far, we appreciate you tuning in, and we hope to see you again in season 8. Be sure to keep a lookout. You can check me out on Twitter at GamblesGordo. More videos to come this week as well for UFC Vegas 81 on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Let's just hope I can survive some Dana White Contender Series action tomorrow, which should be fun as the final one of the year. But that's going to do it for us here. Make sure to like button down below, subscribe to the channel, show some love to my amazing co-host. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. Best in luck at all your betting endeavors, and let's make some money, guys. Peace.